Out front now, two people battling coronavirus. Amy Driscoll is a 48-year-old mother who works for an insurance company in Ohio, and Reverend Eric Elnis is a 56-year-old minister from Omaha, Nebraska. And I appreciate both of you taking the time. And I just want everyone to know that having people know your ages, because obviously it's very relevant for how people understand this and what the risks are. So, Amy, let me start with you. I understand this started for you. You woke up in the middle of the night. You had chest pains and a fever. Finally, you went to the hospital as your symptoms got worse. They did confirm you had coronavirus. So how quickly did it happen that you went from that first symptom at 3 a.m. to needing to be hospitalized?
So it really started for me the afternoon of Wednesday at work. I started to feel feverish and not really, just feeling like I was coming down with something. And by the time I got home that night, probably, 6 p.m., I had a fever of 99. And by the time I fell asleep and then woke up at 3 a.m., it was really in distress. It was really struggle. And through a couple communications with my cousin, trying to get figured out what was going on, she was the nurse that I contacted. I was on my way to the hospital by 4:30 and admitted by, 6 a.m.
Wow, so that happened very quickly. So your progression was very fast. I mean, you're talking about, just overnight.
Yes.
So Reverend, your experience was totally different. You came back from a trip to Spain last week. You had a minor cough. What were your symptoms like?
Yeah, I came back from the trip. I actually didn't have any symptom whatsoever for a full day after I got back. It wasn't until the next afternoon I noticed a slight cough that I associate with what I always get during allergy season. So I didn't think anything of it, and Spain wasn't on the hot list at the time. But then the next morning, the cough hadn't gone away, and I'd learned that Spain had been put on the hot list. So I thought, well, nobody's telling me to do so, but I'm a minister of a large church. I have extra responsibilities. I should call somebody and just see if I should be concerned. And they said, yes, you should be concerned. You've been abroad and you had one symptom. But since the beginning, I've only had a slight cough, and that's it. When they took my test, they noticed a slightly elevated heartbeat, but that's it. No symptoms whatsoever. I've never had more than that. In fact, the last few days, I haven't even had the cough.
I mean, it is incredible how different this can be. Let me just ask you, Amy, you described, obviously, your experience so very different, and the onset to hospitalization being so rapid. You described it as a battle inside your body. Tell us what you mean by that. What happened? How did it feel like?
So I was just so sick right away, and it just felt like I just couldn't, I couldn't do anything that would make it better. And, when I was inpatient in the hospital, they ran a whole bunch of tests and they did all of the things. And then they did services to try to make me comfortable. But they were pretty honest in saying that there just really wasn't a whole lot they could do. So I really just had to kind of battle out the fever and battle out how I felt. And it was a lot of sleeping, waking, taking some fluids, going to the bathroom, going right back to sleep, all while hooked up to an IV and people, checking on you every, half hour or so.
Did you need a ventilator?
I was not. I was not on a ventilator. I did not need it.
Right. I just am asking because I know so many people are worried about that and how that may play out. Reverend, to your situation, though, as you point out, unless you had kind of pushed hard to get tests and followed the news, you wouldn't have ever sought any kind of medical attention for what you had. There's a new study that says 86% of people with coronavirus in China were asymptomatic, which means obviously they're spreading it to people who could have gotten extremely sick, people like Amy, or people who get a heck of a lot sicker than that. If it weren't for you taking that initiative to kind of force the issue and get tested, I mean, just to state the obvious, right? You could have spread the virus even more widely, right? I mean, you've got a church.
Well, I'm not on the church. We're on the Tri-Faith Commons, where a church, a synagogue, and a mosque have all co-located to a 35-acre commons. I systematically infected members of 3 different Abrahamic faiths just through the day and a half I was in the office, just for the casual, and I was doing social distancing and all that. But still, there are over 30 people who got infected, or at least exposed to it, and are now quarantined. I can't even imagine now the people who have been exposed to somebody like me. They didn't know they were, and now they're carrying the virus. So they haven't been even abroad. They just have one symptom, and they're carrying this, thinking they just have an allergy.
You did the right thing. You did the right thing, and you did the best you can. But I mean, it's got to feel horrible, right?
Well, regardless of what it feels like to me, it's just really clear that we need to have a national quarantine now. We needed to have it a week ago. We need to shut things down so that people are hurting here in the heartland, really hurting already, and not just from the virus. They're out of work. They're going to financial devastation, and just how long we need to shut things down right now so that people are only out of week for a matter of a few weeks rather than a few months or even years if this triggers a global depression.
Amy, you have a 14-year-old son. I know he's quarantined at home. His symptoms, as I believe you've said, are very mild, some headaches. What are the doctors telling you about him and what he should do?
So they don't want to test him. They don't feel like it's necessary to test him. And Ohio has changed their regulations on who's getting tested now. And, he's under quarantine with me. Essentially, he'll be here as long as I am. And we're just going to kind of wait it out and see how it goes. If he has any more severe symptoms or anything that really gets, something serious, then they've given us numbers to contact and people that we're supposed to call and make sure that we're in contact with, so they're aware and we can make decisions from there.
Well, I hope that his symptoms remain mild, and that, so good that you seem to truly be on the road to recovery. Thank you so very much, Amy, and you as well, Reverend. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.